So, do you remember drawing with me in the past? Do you remember what we drew?
Yes.
What was the assignment?
It was drawing
Our ideal life.
What you thought your life
what we
was going to
thought
be?
life was going to be and what it is.
Okay. So today, I want you to either write it or draw it. What is your life right now? And it's only going to be for a minute, just to ground us and to give us perspective. What's on there right now? And selfishly for me, allowing people to potentially see, if we can zoom in on any of your writing, like that's part of healing and trying new things and being open to new things. So, okay.
You got a whole picture there? Come on.
That's how she rolls,
Yep.
of course. Anyone want to go
Make
first?
me look bad.
Nope. We already know who's who. She already has that drawing thing down. That's her role.
I mean, my
You
drawings
did
are
your
so
thing.
bad.
Let me see.
They're just stick figures.
They're actually really good. They say everything they need
Right.
to say.
And can I just say, it is the most delightful image. There's nothing sad about that.
She speaks through her picture.
Yeah.
Well, like, yeah.
Picture's worth more than words. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying there.
Well, because I'm basically saying, because what was the question?
What do you have now? What's your life
Yeah.
now?
I think what's funny is because when we first did this, you asked what is our life like.
Yeah.
We forgot to say that part, but
Yeah.
it was like we had two coloring times, and it was more like disconnected. Like I remember you were at the table with Lucas, and I know we have times where like yes, you feel Lucas at the table, whatever.
Right.
But I had like Lena playing by herself.
Totally.
And I remember me doing the dishes or something. And I just feel like since we've met Tracy, and it's just so weird, but like we're just being more intentional with like being together. And like when Carmelina specifically is like in that zone of asking questions, where we like stop. We're like,
Yeah.
it's time to like really listen to her, like get off our phones,
Yeah.
be in the moment.
Right.
So I just wrote that like, I feel like our life is now, we're finally living in the now. Like we're okay with whatever the future holds. Like we want to embrace it. And like we're truly like trying to experience like the joy that our family is.
Yeah. Can I see it?
Yeah.
So, if you have your journals, I want you to look at the expression
Yeah.
in this versus the expression in the first.
Yeah.
And the first one was silent. As an observer of it, it was
Right.
very quiet. And this isn't.
Yeah.
This is what it's, mayhem, because that's what
Yeah.
life is. And one of the doctors that is partnering with Tighed Together, it's beautiful, I love it, has a quote, and her quote goes something like this, that life is a beautiful struggle.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. It's so good.
And so that's beautiful, and something's going to get knocked over and spilled, and off you go, and the mayhem, you just keep going down the
Right.
river, and it's really awesome. And I'm so happy that you are not quiet,
Yeah.
and you don't
Yeah.
have to go quiet, and you can be whatever you want to be. But I'm delighted, everybody in your first drawings, you definitely had categories and locations,
remember it.
and it was a geography thing. It was a kitchen thing versus a not, and it was really not rigid, but it was very defined.
Yes.
And now you're beginning to sort of mix the Play-Doh colors, and it's so fun to
Yeah.
mix Play-Doh. Like you're just gonna buy new Play-Doh.
Right? You just buy new Play-Doh. We even did that with Lena. At first, it would be like, oh, Lena, really? You have to mix? And we were like, just
That's
mix it.
living. That's
Well, what's the-
living.
well, whatever. And
Yeah.
then she ended up making that cool outer space looking color.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing more frustrating to a parent than seeing these nice, perfectly fine colors, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. But is that a problem? Like,
No.
who says that's a problem?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to mix colors.
Right.
So good for you.
Yeah.
What do you have there,
What do you have?
Okay.
Because this is catching me up to speed
Right.
before
Yeah.
we go into
Yeah.
more
It's definitely
questions.
saying a lot.
Right.
Because when did we have our We have like
November. Look it up.
November. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been since November. So almost 4 months, 5 months removed from the event.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot's happened. I think a lot's
a
changed.
lot,
I
yeah.
think that was personally for me a turning point of what has happened to us and what we're doing with what has happened to us. So that's basically what I wrote down. I just titled it Hopeful. And I said we began to experience life accepting of the trauma that we have, of what trauma we have. I said we aren't focused on what happened anymore. We're focused on what life is ahead with what happened.
What a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So read that again.
We aren't focused on what happened anymore. We are focused on what life is ahead with what happened.
That's a big juggling act. And that's, again, adulting, right? It's part of showing up to what you have.
right.
And good for you. It's really, really awesome. And I think just even the word trauma, like I wanted to talk to you about that word. Because when we first met, I felt like that was a brand new vocabulary word for you all.
Yeah.
Knowing that you know the word and you use
Right.
the word, but it wasn't a word you used in relation to your experience. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, I guess I never really like categorized trauma. It was just like there was this main
Right.
event that took place in my life that we as the family know took place.
Right.
But I guess the issue is I use it so frequently now. Because
Right.
I've found purpose in using the trauma as a bridge.
Yeah, it's a connection point.
And we feel like
Yeah.
so many people have trauma. So
I would
many people.
argue every individual has trauma. I got to be honest.
I know.
Yeah, it's part of life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you just
It's like breathing
continue-
air.
Right.
We all need that. It's like water, right? We all need to drink that or have fluids. So it's
That's
just
how
part.
you go from that is what
Yeah.
I think we're finally at a point where we, like you said, like focused on what life is ahead with what happened.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
how I've learned that there's power in me saying to clients that I work with as like a personal trainer, like, here's 28-year-old Jordan talking to 65-year-old Rob.
Right.
You know, where's that bridge there other than that's a young kid that might know a little bit about the body, right? For me, it's so relational. Like, I know that individual and I want to get to know more about that individual.
Right.
But in order to know them, I need to let them in on me, like the real me, not the, I could play,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm
Tough
big
guy.
bad. Yeah, I'm a
Right.
tough guy. You don't
Right.
ever have to know what I am,
Right.
bro.
Right.
But instead, it's like I walk in and I go to what I wouldn't deem work, but I go there and it's like,
Yeah. Well, and that is part of that book that we also talked a little bit about, which is What Happened to You. And the language of that book was really all about our connectivity to other people. And so the number one sort of common denominator to what helps people to heal and move past and become resilient is how connected they are to the people in their circles and letting those people in. So letting those clients, right? Letting your siblings, letting your parents, letting the neighbor next door know a little bit about Lukey, right?
Yeah.
And not be afraid of it.
right. And I think the issue was I was always saying, well, it's too much to explain. But I guess you come to a realization that like, all you have to say is, like, we have a son with special needs, and like
Right.
that says it all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
regardless of what context that is.
Well, and I like what Tracy just said about it's like letting even our people in our circle in more on stuff.
Yeah.
Because we used to, not that we would say like, oh, they don't want to hear about Lucas, but it was just like, I don't want to burden people. I don't want to burden my sister-in-laws with having to deal with talking to their kids about Lucas because of it. And it's like, we kind of switched gears like in the last 5 months of, I just think it's happened naturally where like the kids are older now, like my
Right.
nieces and nephews, and they're just like
Curious. As they should be.
and now I'm like finally being able to talk to them in
Right.
a way that they understand more. that I'm more equipped
Right.
to talk to them. Like just this last week, our nephew, who's the same age as Lucas, me and my sister-in-law were pregnant
At the same time.
2 weeks
Yeah.
apart. He is like he's literally my other boy. Like his name's Max, and we had Lucas in the daycare for a little bit one day, and he always plays with him. Like they're always been so amazing with him, but it's like Maxon's at more of a developmental age now where he's just being more curious. So he ran over to me and he said, Auntie, I touched Lucas's bumps. And he's like never noticed, like he's like messed with Lucas's head before, but he's now connecting like, wait, what was that?
Right.
Like, I'm curious. So I finally got the opportunity to talk to the youngest, really, like about him. And I had to make it, he's like thinks he's the Hulk. So like I had to get into his world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, your cousin, he is like superhero. He's a superhero. Because did you know at birth, his brain was cut open? Like I had to get super gory, but he
gushy
was
and
locked. And he was like, so anyway, I tell him everything about the shunt, what it does, how it goes through into his stomach. And he looks at Lucas and he goes, wow, he's really a superhero.
Yeah.
And it was just like
bionic
such a
cousin.
moment for like me, especially because like Maxon was like my Lucas, like development. Like who I
thought.
I mean, and God just has such a way of like now it's like that's his like army are these cousins and sibling, of course, that's going to like be right next to him, carrying him.
And so when one of them
not afraid to like show them like Lucas is different and here's what's going on and like you are going to be a part of, you know, his walk. You know?
When they're writing their college entrance essays about Lucas or you, each of you or one of you as their inspiration or someone they look up to. Because they'll have years of stories that are going to empower them to want things to be better. Right? One of them's going to be a doctor, right? A neurologist or something, right? They're going to do something that makes a change.
I can't. Because it's just like amazing. Like this is just our family's walk and I'm excited to share it with not just me and Jordan anymore. I think that's the turning point.
And I think the thing about sharing is it kind of does this. There are waves, and sometimes you feel like, I definitely want to connect. I want to have that. I want to do that. And then other times you're like, no, I don't really need that today because you're in a rhythm, right? And so there are cadences and rhythms to our world. And so figuring out when you need more of that, that's when you do it. And when you don't, you can sort of be an introvert about it and not feel the need to share. So,
exactly.
What has this whole trauma vocabulary, how has it changed how you talk to each other? Is there a difference in how you interact with each other?
Great question. You go first.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I think I don't know, there's just such a like a under, like you don't need to talk about it. It's just like this, like we get it, like this get. Like, I can't explain what I'm trying to say.
So I mean, I'll be real honest. You know, like in the beginning, it was really messy. Like it was like on a nightly basis. Like I was either leaving the house. Like Lucas would vomit for the third time of the day of the 8th time of the week, and you know we just exploded. So like it hasn't since then, since when Lucas was born, hasn't been where it is now. You know, there was like a solid, I would say almost like 2.5 like 3 years of like constant argument in our marriage,
or like and just two parents trying, like two views, two parents of just like trying to figure out what is best for Lucas at that moment of time where like he is throwing up and like how are we handling Carmelina during it, and it was just like messy. So I think we honestly within this year have really, communication has been huge for us, like and also like when Carmelina's not around, explaining like what is our triggers with each other when we're in these high stress situations, like like we literally were saying we need to create a safe word of like when we're getting to that point, because we, you know, in marriage you can easily.
Hey, I said it. I think I said it at some point in the car, even today. I was like, just so you know, like I know you're on that time of the month. I get it, but I'm just letting you know that like I'm getting to that point.
Right.
I'm letting you know ahead
but
of time.
see, we never would talk about that beforehand, so it would just be like explosion between emotions and everything, and now it's just like the communication of. Yeah, definitely respecting each other's triggers and like don't get to that point and understand that like a lot of the times it's like way more deep on both of us of why we're even reacting a certain way and like because of trauma. But like between that and then also just the way we act in front of like Carmelina, we've really been mindful of.
Yeah, your audience is watching.
Yes, and she really is like really.
And so
she's
like
supposed to.
Yes.
And you know what is funny about this? I've been thinking about this. Is like you were saying, like how parents like want to protect their children from what they're going through. Yeah. You know, you gotta. At some point, there has to be a line drawn where they're not fully experiencing every feeling that you feel. Right.
Right.
The challenge comes in identifying that threshold of that point of like, damn, you know, like she shouldn't be hearing this part, but like then there's a part of it where like I might be weeping,
and that's like, okay that she
I need to weep in front of her, because she needs to know that it's okay to weep.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times, like especially the male figure in a house, will suppress those feelings so much that all they do is they do that in their alone time, or they do that when they go to the bar and drink themselves into oblivion. Like, I get it, but it's not the excuse.
Well, and I think you're also realizing that when you do weep, it doesn't last forever. Yeah. When you actually make space for it, it has a finite thing where eventually you're like, all right, I'm done with this. I gotta go work out, or I gotta go to work, or I gotta take care of those dishes, or you know, something else is gonna expect you to pay attention to it. I gotta go pick up the kids, or whatever. The bus is coming, right? So amazingly, and I can vouch for this, I have tried to cry and not stop when I was first diagnosed and thought I was not going to be here. And you can't physically keep crying. I've tried.
Oh my God.
Right? So it's, you know, eventually your body and your brain start working on their own.
Is that what happened? Like for you?
Yeah,
like,
I just...
It was like the deep depression, the depressive state of like, I just got news that
my reality. So here, right? So I was in the orange, I was in the, oh boy, how am I going to come out of this? It's in my genes. Where am I going with this, right? And so, I can remember sobbing in my husband's arms and then eventually deciding in the next few days that okay, I gotta try something else. And so I remember when we first looked at this, Jordan, your reaction to this was startling. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because I remember you sort of caught me off guard, and so I want you to relive that.
I can't. You have to retell it.
It's just like, it says it all. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, just like the way that the repetition, right? Like the spiral.
That's
Like for me, the quit fighting was like paradoxical. Because quit fighting is like, okay, so you're telling me to give up.
Right.
But I actually, in entering this new life, I have to really fight.
Right.
Even harder. Because I'm fighting something different. It's falling back into that spiral.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's interesting. So some people see surrender as a sign of weakness, right? That, well, I'm weak if I give into it and just let myself feel what I have to feel. And in the end, you're actually just the opposite. You become even stronger and empowered because you're no longer stuck grieving. because grief is pretty mighty, right? It's an ocean,
Very
right? And the waves come and you have no control over the ocean, but you're in it and you're up and down and you're all over the place. And so our goal is to really help families to come out of that ocean. And I just remember sharing that with you. And to me, as we discussed it, it felt like you were saying, really? My God, I'm right there. Like, I don't remember exactly where on the chart you fell, but it was a moment of reality that you were like, am I right? I think I'm right here. And so the beauty is to keep finding yourself and to give yourself permission, and knowing people have spent their whole careers building these resources that are out there in the world. And why, we talked about this earlier, like, why aren't families actually talking about this? And how wonderful for your daughter to have some of these tools.
I know. It's such a perspective. The emotion cards, huge. Huge for her. Processing. She says some words now, like, I'm feeling fresh. Like, she's talking more about her feelings. Like, finally, she's.
And having the language about feelings, right? So we know good, we know bad, we know happy, we know sad, but we don't actually pay attention to some of those other words, like that are right, longing or worried. You know, those are really powerful, valid,
very anxious.
Emotions. And so those little cards are game changers. Right?
And for her to see the emotions are so powerful. So powerful.
That's really, really awesome.
Yeah. I think, like, I gotta be honest, the cards help me.
They do.
Like, in a sense of, like, like, grief, part of it is, like, recognition of, what am I feeling right now? You know, am I feeling angry? Am I feeling, I think there was one night, and this is really transparent, this, like, recently just happened, but I cried myself to sleep. We both cried ourselves to sleep.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was like, you know how you say it's like an ebb and flow, right?
Right.
Yes.
Like, we feel strong right now, but, like, don't get it twisted. Like, a couple weeks ago, we were really struggling.
There's harder nights. He just started his growth hormone.
Right.
Yeah. Now we have
which
to
is
give
like
him
an
injection
injection.
every single night.
Carmelina sees it, which she's amazing about it. She has this little lion
Yeah.
that has his own pen that she gives him.
I wonder if she's going to be your doctor or nurse.
She literally gives her lion injections every night when her brother gets them.
Of course she does.
And even tonight, you were in the shower, so I did it with him on the floor with her, and she right away became like Jordan for me. Like, she knew I wanted someone, so she, like, you didn't even know, but she told me, she said, Mommy, you have to wipe the skin. Like, she knows what to do. And then she just held his hand and said, it's okay, Lukey, it's all right. Sissy's here. When I put the thing in him. And I swear to God, Jordan, I know. She's literally, like, changing. I don't know. She's just, like, I feel like she's finding her little purpose in her life with Lucas. So.
And remember,
I know.
That blessed me. Thank you.
Yeah, you were in the shower. I was like,
good. I'm glad that you were in the shower.
Right.
Yeah.
That moment wouldn't have happened.
Right. It gave her the opportunity to show up for you.
Yeah, like, she didn't do her lion. She literally did Lucas with me.
One of the things you guys talked about was sort of what happens when something happens, whether it's a seizure or what have you, and how everyone sort of hits that button. Talk to me, because I just heard an example of a time where it sounds like you could have hit the eject button in the past, and it was just tonight that little miracle happened with your daughter as she's soothing you and him simultaneously, because she wasn't afraid, because she knew what was going to happen, and it no longer was traumatic to her. It was just a Wednesday.
Yes. Right.
Like, it's,
and that's a lot for her, because she is a, like, more anxious kind of child. So for her to finally be doing something where she doesn't feel that anxious.
What was your anxiety level giving that needle?
Oh, in the beginning it was horrible.
No,
but tonight, no, I felt like I felt calm. Like, there was a calmness.
Yeah. So you have a choice. So you weren't fighting the needle. Why do I have to give this? I don't want it to hurt him. You weren't right. You weren't resistant. It was sort of, you've learned enough about it. You've given yourself enough time to get educated on it.
Right.
And I'm steady. And it's like a flu shot. Right?
That's it.
So good for you.
Her in that
Just
role,
every night.
was so calm, you know. It was just such a nice moment. But to answer your question about like how we act when moments strike, like when he vomits or we have been so much more aware since when she sat at Ray of Light and told me that. I don't know if you remember when she like looked at my eyes and literally said to me, she just said, like, Mommy, I feel like you forget about me.
You don't see me.
Yeah. Oh, so that like has been with me since that, and I've been so like intentional about when Lucas is having an episode. Like we don't just both tend to Lucas anymore. It's like one of us will go to Lena right away because it's like unless it's major,
involve her.
Or and we involve
maybe
her
it
more.
might be a time where it's not that intense and like severe that like, hey, this might be an opportunity. Like, oh, Luke threw up again. Yeah, this is.
Go get the paper towels.
Can you grab me the paper towels? Yeah, I'm right on it. Got it.
And she so wants to be. Like she's not scared.
Well, and like most things in life, when you're busy and active, you have purpose. You feel like there's a role that you're playing.
Yeah.
She now is getting old enough to have a role, just like you. Yeah. And she doesn't have to be afraid of her brother.
Right.
I mean,
see, it's
remarkable.
funny though, because like having to manage, like obviously she's experienced trauma this early on in her life.
Yeah.
So now the things, the outlashing, the times where she just loses her mind is like we immediately call it to trauma. So we don't say, oh, she's such a spoiled rotten brat. You know, like all I do for her. You know, it's not.
No,
that's not the reaction. It's like
her emotions stem from.
You know that this exactly, and she can't even express that because she's such a baby still.
Yeah.
But like, it's our job, it's our responsibility as a parent to recognize that our children experience trauma, just like not only with Lucas, but like the sudden passing of our grandmother.
Right.
Like really hard for Carmel.
The amount, the amount of questions we get hit with, I'm like, you know, what is heaven? Where is Graham? You know, she just last week still thought that she was just on vacation.
Yeah. She's writing more now, and she's really in her thoughts. And like, even just like a couple days ago, she said, I miss her. Like, I know she said, like, I miss her. She's in heaven. She's just always thinking about it. But I think it's like just crucial that we're always touching base with her about it. We're not just like letting her, like, I feel like if we didn't meet you and Tighed Together, this whole experience with with his grandmother, I don't know if we would have gotten, we would have spiraled.
Really?
I really think we would have spiraled together. We would have gone right to that really bad repetition spiral. Oh. Because of so she was like the matriarch of her family.
Got it.
Just her relationship with Lucas was like none other. So it was like
so sudden.
So
you know
sudden.
What I mean? Like it's like she like 2 days before she tested positive for it.
She was at my house, like strolling him around, singing him all the songs. So like it was a very, very hard, still, like not real.
It's still,
tough.
no, like, honestly, you put up those pictures recently.
But I put up pictures of Gigi
up on the windowsill
her
and stuff. And
in
it's
our
just
kitchen,
like,
and I just want her to be there. I don't want the kids to ever lose the special being that she was. And
no, I don't think they will.
They
that's
won't,
who we are.
Right.
It's literally, like, we can't be anything else because they did their due diligence to, like pour into our parents who then poured into us.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And just like the amount of prayer she put towards Lucas will just never be. It's just like
she has passed a heavy torch. I will tell you.
Yes. But anyway, all that to say though, the way we handled it was with hope. Like even in tragedy, we always said like we never got to that bad. I mean, yes, it was horrible and we cried.
You were sad.
We were sad.
Yeah.
And we are sad, but like the way we've handled it for Carmelina, I think is solely based off of what we've learned through Tighed Together.
That's incredible.
For real.
It was honestly the turn. I think that was, I feel like I have 17,000 turning points in my life now, but the reality is like, this was the firsts. Like when you experience trauma, you have the firsts. with everything. Like, oh, this is the first time, whatever. You know, this is the first time, whatever. And this was the first trauma
challenge
inducing
that you had.
experience that we've had since Lucas.
Right. Agreed.
And I think what was different is our outlook on it. Like, I didn't go through that valley of time where it's happening and I wasn't focused on what's happening. I was focused on, what does this mean?
What are you gonna do about this?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't know that in the beginning, right?
No,
like
no.
At the beginning we were praying that she was gonna come home, that she was gonna get off of 5 liters
And
of
there was nights
oxygen.
where I said, don't do it. Because
Yeah.
he would say, like, babe, I think she's done. And I said, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Until there's breath
And
left
you
in her
kept the
lungs.
reins in me because I almost went the extreme route of like, it's happening again, might as well give up. Right? So like that's
Yeah.
how
It
it
was a
started, and
process,
it was like
but-
a tension between the two of us where she was like, stop speaking like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it wasn't, my speaking of that wasn't like in giving up. It was that like,
I know.
at that whole time of trying to process my grief and stuff for it, I was trying to see like, what's coming
What's
out
next?
of this.
Yeah.
What's coming out of this end. If this is the result,
Yeah.
there's got to be something
Right.
to come for this.
Well, and I'm glad we're in this little quiet space and that we have that, because watching you both go there with
We
your
haven't
eyes,
stopped looking.
it's empowering, because you're not stuck inside. You're not trying to make sense of it. It's already got some structure there.
Right.
And so you can add into that structure and that whole feeling of a connectedness, knowing that someone suggesting that is a connection point, even if you don't know Marion Kubler-Ross. Like,
Right.
it's wonderful to know that someone has spent their career doing that, and you can. And so I'm just thrilled that I wish I knew her and I wish I met her, because I feel like she and I could have some interesting conversations and share some interesting expectations about how great life is supposed to be. And good for you. Maybe that was part of her parting gift to you, is to give you permission to test out some new theories and see what good can happen. And here you are hitting it out of the park. And really, here you are holding each other and making space for each other. And you mentioned earlier about friction between the two of you. Like, I'm thrilled to hear that it's not what it was,
Right.
because that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to love and hard to be close and stay connected and be tied together when you have really noisy friction. And so I'm just so thrilled, and she must be so proud of you.
It's just the beginning. Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, carry on was her final words.
Oh
Or
my
carry on.
gosh.
And
We have to.
you know, I think for me it was like, that's not just like your final words. Like, that's like a mission.
Yeah.
That's the turning point. That's the quit fighting.
You're right.
Carry on is the faith that now brings me into that new life.
Right. Believe it's possible. And you see it every day. Like just tonight's story of Lena. I just want to hit rewind and go listen to that again.
No.
Like, remember, it was only a few months ago, 6 months ago, that the two of you were gingerly wondering, what do we say?
How do we bring it up?
How do we talk about it?
And
Right.
she's like, actually, I'm going to start asking.
Right, because she's been ready,
Yeah.
right?
She has been.
And now
I
you're
remember
ready.
When she
I mean,
was
tell
3, I
Tracy
would
what-
say to some people, like, I just don't know how I'm going to communicate this to, like, how do you communicate this to a 4-year-old? Well, don't worry. They're going to tell you when they're ready
She
to
just
communicate
came up
it
to you
because
and
they
said-
ask.
she just
It's like
asked
Max. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
it's like, I just touched his bumps. What does that mean?
Yeah.
That's how blunt they are.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about
He's
it.
bionic. Let me tell you why.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
take that route.
So it's been really, really, that I think has been the most, like our end of the day when we sit on the couch, like that's been the most enjoyable part of our day. Because obviously our day is crazy. But like being able to connect and then her just open up and ask. And she's just always thinking. Like her brain is always going. I see it in her eyes. And I'm like, keep doing that though. Like,
Right.
keep asking.
I remember too, there was a time when we were at the farm and you guys had those glasses on. And watching the two of you as parents, remove yourself as a parent for a minute and just pay attention to what you were experiencing was really inspiring. And I just, to me, that was a really brave moment to share with the world because we don't know what Lucas's experiences are. And so whatever we can do to empower ourselves to know some of those things, you no longer have to tiptoe and try. And what are we going to say? Well, I don't know. We know this. We know if you look through this water bottle, it could be what his experience is.
Right.
You now have that tool because you remember what that visual was.
I just did that. With that tool, I just did it the other night. We just had, the I say grandkids. The grandkids,
Yeah.
I guess. All the nieces and nephews.
That's what they are.
Right.
I know. There's
ultimately the grandkids.
Yeah, the cousins,
The cousins, right.
There you go.
We had them together and they started asking questions. I think it was Gemma and Rory, and they were just asking questions about Lucas. And I think Rory was like, Uncle Jordan, why does he move his head like that? And
I kind of starting to finally.
And I just honestly, you'd be surprised how much kids actually understand at an early age.
So much.
Yeah.
So I just started explaining, you know what, Lucas doesn't really see like we see. And you want to kind of see what that might look like. And I pulled up a picture of a kaleidoscope. I didn't have an actual kaleidoscope, but hello, 21st century, you can just look up a kaleidoscope. And I showed them that, and I was like, now look at that really small piece there. Try thinking if Lucas was gonna see you through this little hole, he's trying to catch it every time. So he's just trying to focus on whatever's happening. And they really were locked in understanding of what I was telling them, genuinely how he probably sees.
Right.
And then this was her making him laugh. Rory. Hold on. I didn't have a video, but I have a picture. She's just so into looking at him.
Yeah. And they have their own way of playing with him.
So incredible.
Oh, and then that was a big moment this past weekend. Her older sister is 8. She's the oldest.
Okay.
And she wanted to hold Lucas alone so my sister-in-law's house had a downstairs where all the kids play.
Yeah.
And I used to just get so no,
nervous.
Lucas has to be up with us. I can't do the separation. I get too nervous. And he was just like, you know what? We need to trust. She knows enough now.
Right.
And I just trusted her. And
I need to challenge myself too. Think about it.
So he hung out with the kids with her, and she was the best little protector. For about a half hour. She just wanted to be with him, and she was like, I got this, Auntie.
So great.
I'm going to sit next to him.
And
it let us feel like we were normal for a second. We got to hang out with our siblings and
just be.
Let the kids
let your hair down. Right.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've often challenged in Tied Together is, so what's the bad thing that's going to happen?
Right.
There wasn't a bad thing that happened.
Right.
Usually there isn't. We've told ourselves that thing is going to happen, right? But right. And I don't know why our brains do that, but we're here to challenge that maybe you don't have to believe it. Right. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. Remember that. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. Our brain thinks tons of things all day long. They don't necessarily mean it's true. It means you're giving it some sort of feedback and attention, and it's staying in that loop, maybe. Maybe you need to give it something different. For all your clients, I can do this. I am strong enough. I'm going to make that box jump. I got this. I got this. It's that positive talk, right? And so ways to empower families to live in the nothing bad happened. We did it anyway. That's so great. And how wonderful for your siblings and spouses to all be able to breathe easy with you.
Yeah.
And when the thing happens, the seizure or he vomits, you're going to get through that. and not hit the eject button. And they're all going to be empowered with you.
Yes.
Right? That modeling, your audience is watching. And so kudos, like a big round of applause to you guys.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
good. It's goosebumpy. Like in that video that you helped us make, and I talked about the tied together goosebumpy moments, right? You've shared so many goosebumpy moments just right now.
I know.
They just keep coming. And imagine you decided,
a whole life ahead of us.
yes, you can
And all you have to do
celebrate
is
it.
talk about it. That's why it's so
Right.
because like these moments can happen if you just internalize, or if I didn't think to share it with Jordan because it's just like whatever was happening to Lena.
Yeah.
You would have never known that
Right.
these moments that are so powerful.
Right. And I think the one thing that Marjorie and I were so impressed with when we first met you two was the love that's real with you. Like you were so smitten with each other and protective of each other and finishing each other's sort of phrases and sentences. And before anything was drawn, you already knew. And you were like, the two of you were like pages ahead of us. Yeah.
Sarah does it right.
Sarah does what I do right
No
now.
problem.
You take
I'll
for me.
I'll take the leap. Yeah, no, that's it.
It's awesome. And so the fact that we've increased sort of the positivity means you can keep growing that love.
Right.
And because that's what marriage is about, right? It's the ride. And we
Handling the ride. Like,
yeah.
just handle it.
And knowing that
Like, get
it's
over
supposed to be a
yourself.
ride.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It's
like-
not supposed to
like-
be laying on the beach.
Like, am I overwhelmed after? Exactly. Right.
It's not
Right.
supposed,
It's not supposed to be, get retired and live this
Yeah.
hunky-dory life. Like,
No.
like trying to tell a client that just retired that they have to keep moving. It's like how
Yeah.
that's the norm. That's a norm idea. Is that I retire and I stop moving the rest of my life.
Yeah.
How depressing is that?
Right. Think of the families that are going to follow your lead.
I hope they do, Tracy.
They
I
will.
genuinely do.
Because
That's all I've asked for my whole life
right,
was influence, and I chased everything to get that.
right.
And I feel like influence started when my life fell apart.
And
And you can't hide that stuff.
no,
You know?
no. And you're not supposed to.
No, I needed the tissue.
We knew
Needed the tissue.
who was going to use these tissues.
Major
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yo! Played me!
So two things, just so that we don't forget. In the next month, I'm going to stay on the two of you to get back into that
I give
cycle.
You permission. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
You're not bothering us.
Yeah,
honestly,
to get back into that cycle, because that's a whole network
Yeah.
of families like yours.
Yeah.
And they've already built that ship.
And the
you
one
can
thing
just
that-
ride on it. You don't have to
Yeah.
rebuild it. This whole family thing, I think, is new and requires building. What Tied Together is doing is
and
different.
jumping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because, am I accepting of our life? Absolutely, but now I have to be accepting of that world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What does that mean for you?
Yeah.
That's the issue. Is that world is subjective to the individual.
Okay.
I feel like if you're going to say no bad things happen to you, then that must mean that what you're deeming a bad thing, is it actually bad? And that's where my faith tension comes in. It's like, I don't think I want Lucas any other way. Like, even if I could have drawn the perfect picture of me, you know how selfish that is of me as an individual to steal Lucas's experience on this side of heaven, whatever that might look like, for my selfish gain of what I thought my life would look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where my faith has grown stronger because I've realized I've lost all control. So that must mean someone's running this show,
Yeah.
and I've seen nothing but faithful after faithful after faithful. I believe that's God, and then that's just like obviously what we stand on as a family. But
Yeah.
there's just so much hope in knowing that, like, just because we deem it, I have a son with special needs, is that, oh my gosh, I can't believe you had to go through that, or is that like, wow, tell me more.
Right.
What is that?
What did you
life
learn
like?
about that? Well, and
Right.
so there's this quote that I'm smitten with lately, and it's by Rumi, and he says, "Where there is ruin, there is hope for treasure." Hope for treasure. Like, shame on me, I wasn't even considering treasure.
Right.
I just wanted to get through the day or get through the day or have that life or whatever. And now the Tied Together crew, I feel like that's our job. We're treasure hunters.
Yeah.
And we're trying to help you find the treasures. And in this conversation tonight, you have highlighted so many little treasures that I'm not sure 6 months ago were in your future.
So can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
Is this like normal? Like you do this stuff? Time frame wise, is it normal for a family to?
That's what he didn't hear.
Yeah, he didn't hear that.
Yeah.
So timing is a really funny thing. And I've spent my whole professional career before Tied Together working with families of disabled kids. And so many would come into my office and say, "Why didn't you tell me this before? Why didn't you make me do it this way?" And my answer was always the same. You weren't ready. I might suggest or recommend, but a family needs to be ready to do their thing. They have their own clock.
One of my closest mentors would say, they just haven't landed yet.
Yeah, right. And so
Wow.
I don't think that everyone has their own clock and their own time. And I think this happens to be a good time for you to be doing what you're doing. It's also a great time for your daughter. And so she's running some of this. Her questions are forcing you to stay ahead of her. And that's forcing you to keep looking and keep
Get better.
looking for treasure, right? Like you're required to show up in a way that isn't sloppy. Like you want to actually have your togethers. So here you go, right? And so to me, I think it's in keeping with what's going on in your family right now. Yeah. And you're not afraid of this. Like you're actually realizing, when you talk and share, because by the way, look, talk and share is on the left. It's not over there on the right. So before you weren't talking, you weren't sharing. And you were over there with, I can't believe this has happened to us. I can't believe that this is our life. Why isn't Lucas like his cousin who's at the same age and I'm watching them just
I
not...
still do that.
Yeah.
I'll hear them running behind me, and I literally said to my mom the other day, I was like, see, my son should be behind me.
Like there's
Like,
moments.
I should have heard
the
my son with
difference
them
is-
running.
The difference is it's a moment and it doesn't last though.
Right?
You get-
And now in time, you're also going to be, I can't wait to hear the bell on whatever is propelling him forward, right? Whether it's his new wheelchair or whatever.
Right.
Like you're beginning to make room for,
Yeah.
let's plan for that pitter-patter noise to be Lucas's noise, whatever it is. And damn it, let's put him behind me and here we go.
Right.
Like you're now going to be more ready to make that happen and not have to feel sad about it.
It's constant. It's literally like, hey, when we go out to dinner, it's like, is this a high chair night or is this a wheelchair? Like, are we ready to bring the
Right.
wheelchair into this restaurant?
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about the wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the next feat. We
Yeah.
haven't gotten there yet.
We are though literally next
thinks-
week. Weird that you said that.
Yeah.
The schools wants like wheelchair.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start bringing it.
You know, it's hard to watch a Cadillac that costs $12,000 just sit there in the corner.
Yeah, we gotta do something about that.
Yeah.
So let's put it to use.
You're like the
so
people
funny
that buy
that-
the treadmill and then hang their clothes on it.
Literally.
Would you let the kid use the thing, please?
No. It's
Yeah.
weird. We have this thing with when the special machines come.
Yes.
It's like there's a moment of like we're like timid by them. Like
Yeah.
Because it's just
intimidated? Yeah.
Like the wheelchair took us a while to, I mean, not the wheelchair, I'm sorry, the walker. Took us a while. Like, he's in it more now, but it was just like I don't know, we were intimidated by these machines because they were not our norm, like, obviously. And now the wheelchair is kind of like, because it's such a pivotal moment of like, not that we're like, not hopeful that Lucas will walk, you know, but it's just like, it's a chair. Like, that's a legit thing that we have to put him in.
Okay.
You know?
What's next? Right now.
What are we doing?
What do you want to say to that wheelchair? Write it down.
Oh, jeez.
What do you want to say to that wheelchair?
I'm like yelling at him. I'm in all caps.
I'm not surprised. When you're done, we have another challenge.
Okay. This
Done?
is just like unfiltered.
Yeah, great.
I'm almost done, I promise.
Because to me, it's not about the video. It's about continuing your healing.
Yeah.
So this is why I came tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like if we end up finding something that we like and we want to use it,
Of
great.
course.
But this is the work.
Right.
Can you read for me what's on there?
It's so mean. It's a mean thing to say to this.
Nobody's
wheelchair.
watching.
There's no mean.
It said, make Lucas walk and run. Like, that's what I want to say to him. And don't take him from learning how to walk and run. And do not handicap him. That's literally what I said.
And you think that's mean?
Yeah, because I know that it's supposed to
I
help
think that's
him.
what I expect of it. It's
but-
not mean. It's clear.
Yeah.
There's clarity there. It's not mean. You didn't say you fucking piece of shit. You said.
I mean, I could also
Wait.
say that at
So,
times.
but
said it like a
you
3-year-old.
said
I literally said it like a 3-year-old, yeah.
I have goosebumps. So sit with me for a second. I do. You can't see under my thing, but I totally have them. Make Lucas run, walk! Exclamation point. Yeah, why do you think the school wants that $12,000 thing? Because it will. And he will love it.
Yeah.
It's his bridge to being hot shit with those kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to decorate it, and they're going to move it, and they're going to ride on it, and they're going to help him with it.
Yeah.
That's his connection point. Remember we talked earlier about our connections? That's a bridge for him. It's $12,000 and a bridge, but he's like me, go big or go home,
Yeah.
right? So good for him.
Yeah.
I don't see this as mean at all. Wow. It's totally what it's supposed to do for you.
Yeah.
And I have this woman in my life, and she prepared me for all of my surgeries, and she would call my surgeons healers. That's just her language, right? Her vocabulary. She's like, maybe you should think of them as healers. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And being open to what they have to offer.
Yeah.
And one of the things she taught me was to think about the years and years and years of schooling, undergrad, graduate, post-grad, fellowships, etc., to be available and ready in this moment to heal me. How many years of their life did they prepare? Wow. So I want you to think about the men and women who built that wheelchair. Engineering school, med school, whatever the stories were that brought them to the moment of building that thing that does it even better than it did last year.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
And celebrate that.
Model, yeah.
Like those people, those healers, those builders
Yeah.
are, their whole life is for Lucas to run.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, go ahead.
That was really powerful.
Good,
That's why I needed this.
good.
Good. Okay, I'm talking to the wheelchair.
Yeah,
Okay.
let it have it.
It's not that aggressive.
Okay.
I didn't like you, even though I knew I needed to act like I did. But now, what the enemy meant for evil, God will use it for good. You are a bridge between my son with cerebral palsy. You are a bridge between my son with cerebral palsy and his restored body. Whether that's on this side of eternity or in heaven for eternity. because that's the whole crux of how I'm getting through this. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
I will see Lucas walk again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I will see him walk one day.
Yeah.
Whether that's on earth or in our restored bodies in heaven.
Yeah.
I will see Lucas walk one day.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to accept that, like, I might reach the end of my life and never see the steps of my son.
Right.
Which, again, I don't believe. Like, my mom just sent me something today where it was like...
The 7-year-old girl.
She was 7 years old. Like, I do believe, like, maybe by 7, you know, but maybe not.
Right.
I'm, like, fully prepared to see an old man.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, like, I just hope he's wise, and I hope I've learned the way to communicate to him that causes the influence that I'm trying to cause in the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel yeah. We're all taking them now. Look,
Yeah.
we're going to join you. Walking.
How necessary is it?
I didn't say that. You did. I didn't say that.
Stop.
Walking. Talking. Is that really?
Something to stay in the repetition.
Right. Like walking. Because what I see and what I have experienced is my son, who was 3 at the time. We started a buddy baseball league. Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
So we built a Challenger League. I asked them that day, I said, do you have a Challenger League here? It's Essex. You guys are so fancy. Of course you must. They're like, what's a Challenger League? I said, we're going to start one. So we started a Challenger League, which is part of Little League. It's a national thing. We called it Buddy Baseball. Buddy Baseball encompassed 13 towns and 60 high school volunteers and 60 players. Every player got assigned a high school buddy, and they crushed it. Parents were on the microphones. Now up to bat. Here comes Lucas Timbro. He's batting 500. And parents would go crazy. The crowd would erupt. He'd scoot up there with his wheelchair, and he'd swing the bat if he could. If not, his buddy hit the ball.
Right.
And they ran the bases, and people cheered and did the wave and the whole 9 yards. So what I see is my son, who was 3 at the time, on the back of these wheelchairs of these 3 boys that came to Buddy Ball from another town. So I didn't know them at all, but we organized it and welcomed anybody.
Yeah.
All these towns came, and this family of these 3 boys who all had the same degenerative issue. They were all born with it, all lived in their wheelchairs. Their wheelchairs were their lifelines to normalcy.
Yeah.
And my kid's on the back of the wheelchair, woohoo! Yelling,
Getting around.
being obnoxious. He's covered in dirt, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, high-fiving people as they go, and everyone was erupting because this child in the wheelchair wasn't sure he wanted to be there until my 3-year-old climbed on the back and made it about this parade. So, see, I see a wheelchair very differently.
Let Maxon jump on that.
Let Maxon jump on it. I know.
Let
But I
Damien
see
push
that. Yeah.
it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Exactly.
I know. I think what scares me is I don't want him to ever feel alone. And that's what you're saying is.
And so the bridge here,
Yeah.
we're now on a whole new level.
Right.
We're all about, in addition to being treasure hunters, we're bridge builders.
Yeah.
And that chair is a treasure and a bridge.
It's so good.
It's awesome. It's his like Batmobile,
Yeah.
right? Like you call it whatever you want to call it, give it a name,
Yeah.
because it's huge in his life. And
love that.
and plan on breaking it. I'm not joking about that. Like use it to the point where you need a new one. It needs to be replaced often. Because of all those people that we were talking about
Right,
earlier
they're
that have
making it
spent their
better.
whole careers building that. There's a better one coming next year. Let's get Lukey on that,
Yeah.
right? And yes, The goal is for him to walk. And when he cares about that walking, potentially, maybe, timing, maybe that will happen. When he's at that little league thing or that midget football thing, right? Because he's going to be there because that's important to you and it's important to his cousins. Yeah. You'll see him showing up for things. It's not always our control.
No.
I'm glad we're talking about that wheelchair.
Yeah, that was it, huh?
Because
What made you think
I know. How did you know the wheelchair has been on?
I watched
brought it up, right?
I watched your post, and I knew
Which one?
you could do better than that. So you posted about the wheelchair coming into your
When it
life,
first came.
and I've not seen it since.
I know. How funny is that?
And so the silence of the wheelchair was haunting to me
Wow.
because
Wow.
you get to choose how you want this to go for Luke.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, you're using tons of apparatus. Why shouldn't he? Tons of it. Like, you've got shelves of it over there, right? So let's let him try it all.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of your future is building better ones, right? Maybe that's your daughter's future. Like, I don't know. But this is about empowering, and we're not fighting. And if you want him to walk and he wants to walk and that's in his future, terrific. He'll be walking. I have no doubt. But there's so many other layers to that wheelchair that your school staff knows about.
Yes.
That they're asking, can we have it? Can we please have it? Like, we really need it. It's really, and then eventually it's going to morph and he's going to stand in it as well as use it as a wheelchair because you'll get him one that allows him to stand. And now he's able to sit and be upright. And there's just so many,
I know.
there's so many places to go with it.
Yeah.
So many places to go. And when you're doubting, picture Ty. I might be able to locate
That's
a
gonna be
picture
huge.
on the back of
Please
it.
do.
Woohoo! And you've met Ty, and I mean, he was this big. He was always tall, but he was a little filthy
Yeah.
dirt ball
Troublemaker.
on the back of it.
Yeah.
I swear to God, like he was rolling in the dirt and then climbed up on this thing. And the father came up to me at the end of that day, and he's like, "I've never been so happy to see dirt on my kid's wheelchair."
Wow.
And I said, "Do we need to help you clean it?" He's like, "I don't know. We might have to put in for a new one, but I've never seen my kid laugh so hard." And a stranger, he didn't know Ty. I didn't know him. They weren't my students. They were from another town. So, yeah,
Wow.
that
Where's
wheelchair. They lived in Westbrook.
That's where you guys held the.
Yep, Westbrook is where we used their baseball fields. We
You
had
do it every year.
I think they're still doing it. We had 3 baseball fields in that area, and every field was full.
Wow.
Microphones at every field, parents doing their thing.
Amazing.
Let's do it.
And then, in addition to baseball, we ended up the next year. We had soccer, we had track, we had art, we had tennis, buddy tennis. Like, it was just things people were passionate about.
Yeah.
So,
love that
Lena
so
can build those, and I'll help her to build them as well. Like, there's so much fun that you can have,
Yeah.
and he can have.
Yeah.
And then those kids are going to be asking you for letters of recommendation. And, suddenly you see the purpose, and you see all these other families that are blossoming and growing right alongside you.
Yeah.
And you're no longer crying about a wheelchair.
Wow.
Don't take him. It won't. Because you get to guide him.
Yeah.
No
So
piece of
powerful.
equipment defines your son.
I feel like you doubt yourself.
What are you talking about? Why are you talking about me right now?
I don't know. I'm just letting you know how I feel.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Be more specific so she feels empowered.
I feel like, yeah, right?
Thanks.
Did that come out like a, yeah? Good.
Help her.
I feel like you don't recognize the power and strength that's inside of you.
Why?
With what?
Because you're so good at it that it almost goes. It's second nature to you. Everything. You literally do everything in the house. You cook every dinner. She made me lunch yesterday. Like,
Of course she
I'm a
did.
28-year-old man.
I make my husband lunch almost all the time.
Right. But it's just, I
Feels
think for
good.
me, it's the recognition of like, own it. You know, like to me, own it.
Yeah.
Don't like insignificant yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, keep me in check, I guess is my thing. Keep me in check.
How should she do that? What would you like to hear, or what would be helpful to hear?
To keep you in check.
I don't know.
When do you get worried that that you need checking on?
I think I'm afraid if I ever got there, is what I'm most afraid about. And it's more preventative maintenance. Because I'm such a dreamer that I genuinely believe that the sky is the limit. The sky isn't the limit. Like, there is no limit.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm making t-shirts right now for my clients, and it says no excuses. That's like me.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. If there was a phrase that described me, it was no excuses.
Yeah.
And then on the back I have no limits on the top, no fear on the bottom, and then no excuses in the middle. And like the idea is like there's no excuse to limit yourself whatsoever. There was this phenomenal phrase that I heard when I was younger, and it says, if success was guaranteed and failure wasn't an option, what would you desire to do? And I thought I knew what that meant then. You know, I'm going to go to the NFL. Yeah. Oh, that didn't happen. I got married at 22. Okay, so got married at 22. All right, I'm going to have a family. I'm going to have, 2 to 3 kids. I'm going to be the dad. I'm going to be a successful dad. No. Okay. Now, your son has special needs. Now, what is that life like? What is a life with trauma? Like heart-wrenching trauma, like sweep everything out from under you trauma that you thought it would be.
Yeah. And so you said something about being a successful dad enthusiastically, right? That you were going to do this and then you were going to be this dad. What if you are?
Yeah.
I know what you are.
Right? And you are nailing it, and you're showing up regularly, and you're paying attention, and you're expecting it to be.
To answer your question, I guess that just let me know if that ever, let me know that more. I don't want to say let me know that more, like you don't let me know. I just want to say that in a way of like, if it ever changes, let me know, I guess.
Right, because you are so intentional as of now.
Yeah.
With your kids and those moments that we've shared.
Cameras keep you really accountable too, so
Yeah.
this is here. So
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You're the matriarch of my family. Like, that's you. You know what I mean? Like, my family wouldn't be where it is without you. So own that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't shit. I ain't shit. Like, I don't do nothing, you know? What do you think I do?
Well, you do
I
this.
can't even make my own
you're
lunch,
a team.
bro.
You do this kind of thing that keeps me going, though.
That was awesome to tell her that.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know where he was going.
I'm
Sorry
really
it took
happy.
So long, but
I'm really happy you got to let those words wash over you. Do you believe him?
I do.
Yeah. Feels like you do.
I think I have moments when he doesn't do those things to me, I can easily get into that feeling of like doubting stuff.
Yeah.
But you do always make it. It's like at the perfect times he'll do that kind of thing. Or when you call out to me and you're just like, you're killing it. like couldn't do what you're doing. Like those are things where like
That's so good.
you need that. Like you need that.
Yeah. You guys are made for each other, I do believe, and I'm thrilled. And
I tried, Tracy. I tried when I was a freshman in high school, and she wanted nothing to do with me.
oh, that's so
You know what I mean?
funny.
You want to hear this or no? No, I'm not doing that.
We never told
Some night
One night
we'll do that, and I'll share the same story with my husband in 8th grade.
Love it.
Didn't go well for him.
That's hilarious.
So I mean, I think just that, being able to share what you just shared, and the fact that we worked on the wheelchair.
That's huge for me, Tracy.
Like, I'm not gonna let you guys.
I'm gonna look at that wheelchair so differently now.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to bring it to school.
Yeah. It's a
I want the
masterpiece.
kids to do like I love that.
And having the wheelchair come to school when he's not even there, potentially, to let them touch it, to feel it, to be curious about it, without it being sort of awkward for him to have people in his space.
Right.
Like letting them, just like you would with the cousins.
Yeah.
How would you teach them about it?
Right.
Giving his classmates the opportunity for something similar. The more you can normalize it,
I know, right?
the more you'll love it and not need to scold it. I've never seen you point your finger. Today you pointed your finger at the wheelchair.
Wow.
There's some emotion there, so
Yeah.
we're gonna work through that.
Yes.
And you already have started,
Right.
right? Like, let's celebrate it, name it. Remember that song you were gonna do for your family?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, which we have this other. We came up with ours. We have one.
What is it?
Okay.
We have many songs.
We have many.
That's
Lucas
good.
is very auditory. So
Yes, I know. I love when you post him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, "Mommy, daddy, sissy, mom," and so I started making a
But
beat.
he does it in a cadence, like
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is gonna be.
You
the
have
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. So we, like, that's what we sing, and then we all laugh and like. it's
Yeah,
like-
it's like a little moment.
Oh,
It's the mommy
that's
dad.
so good.
Yeah. The
So
mommy,
good.
daddy, sissy,
Yeah. So the more you can use that and
Right.
have it on your phone, play it intermittently when you're going through or whatever, or you're in the car, like that your children will hang on to forever, wherever they are. They'll have that, and so will you. And so I mean, this is just remarkable, the work that you keep doing, and you're tolerant of my sort of probing and sort of pushing.
But it's
and
like exactly what we need.
Well, I think it's genuine. You know, the difference with Tied Together from, I don't want to say every other therapy, because I haven't experienced every single therapy, but I think it's not, we know that it's not about a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is about a genuine person that
pure
genuinely
heart.
wants to help people. And I know the behind the scenes of that is in its purest form. And that's to get the quality that you get out of like you. It's just like, come on.
you deserve it.
Yeah.
Your children deserve it. Your parents.
Everyone deserves
everybody,
it. That's
right?
what I believe that's my hope for Tied Together,
Yeah.
is that everyone will get to experience
Yeah.
it, because that is.
You should. It's just part of experience, part of adulting, like part of getting to the other side.
Right.
Because look, we've used this thing for so many different topics,
So many.
You
right?
keep going back to it.
Right.
stop.
Right.
And so like that's the thing, is like we think, so me being very practical and like, okay, so what's the goal and how do I get to that goal?
Yeah.
I'll get there. It's like that new life
Yeah.
now comes with a ton of the spirals that you have to get really damn
Right.
good at managing all
Yeah.
those spirals to get out
Yeah.
of it. And it's a constant thing that
Right.
that happens in life.
Right.
That's the
So you start
life
your
is
fitness
a beautiful
journey.
struggle.
Great. You started your fitness journey and 2 weeks later you fell. Hurt yourself.
Right.
Cool. That's the next project. Let's fix ourselves and then we'll get back into it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so it applies to all things in life.
yeah.
Right? And so you just happen to have a child that is bringing forward some of these things in a different way than some other kids would. You know, some kid who's having a temper tantrum in Stop and Shop because he has OCD or some other diagnosis.
Right.
They're going to go through their if they want to pay attention and if they want to come out the other side. You just happen to have one that is a bit more apparent and a little scarier than most. And it's up to you how you're going to respond. And I can't wait to meet your daughter in 10 years, right? And to see her. And I know I won't meet her because she'll be in my life. But, to know that young lady and who she'll be is
scary.
It's awesome.
She's going to be a force. I can't wait.
And, so I think if there's feedback that you want to offer to other, not feedback is the wrong word, if there is something you want to share with other parents about the Tied Together experience in the big picture, right? Not just going to the farm, but the process. Is there anything that has surprised you or anything that you wish someone could have said to you before you jumped in blind? Because you were really blind.
That's really good. Oh my goodness. Do you want to go first?
I'm like, because I really feel like you guys were like angels sent. So I don't have anything bad to say or anything like we needed this like so badly.
Yeah, but why?
Because we
Like what was
we
it
were
that you wish someone else will?
experience.
Yeah, like what did we experience that like if someone were to experience what we experience tomorrow, you wish they?
It was
would
literally.
know?
It was for when I ever heard Jordan explain like what Tied Together was, and I heard your story first. Like I said, okay, she gets it. She gets it. There's
Yeah, that phrase.
there's
They get it. Like
the people who
So that's
get
what
it.
happens. Is
I knew
everyone
right away.
thinks nobody gets it. Oh, they don't get it. They have everything right. That's the problem.
So when I heard
Yeah.
that, your story, and then what you were doing, I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe this isn't out there. Like, more.
Right.
Like, they have financial help. Your bills bills will be paid for. They can obviously help you without all the specialists for medical attention.
Right.
Where is the emotional, mental
Right.
health
Right.
piece? So when Jordan I was like, wow, this is a God moment because, like, we needed that so badly.
And we would have never gone to search for this.
No.
Like, is
I
why
should have.
I'm
I
at.
should have.
No,
but-
yeah, and people would tell us,
Well,
you
no, I'm
go-
sorry. I did try. I did try
you?
seeking therapy.
And what happened?
Well, COVID made it very difficult
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
it was only virtual, and I couldn't connect. And then it faded.
I was going to say, because we were pretty virtual.
Yeah, but it.
But you
faded
let
with
us in.
her. I don't know. It just wasn't. There was something so special about Tied Together, like just about the hope, the cause,
Well, I think that's a nonprofit.
and being able to literally do something as a family. People don't do that because life's so fast. You just don't.
Right.
You don't make the time out to do that and to be in the moment.
Right.
The way we were able to be in the moment.
Good.
And you and Marjorie were just like literally everything we needed. Just like
And ironically,
amazing.
you really didn't need much. Some cards were helpful. I'll give you that. You didn't have the cards. I didn't have the cards. Marjorie had the cards. She brought them. That was a tool. Totally believe that was an assist, right?
Yeah.
We offered you a little
The resource.
assist. But everything else has really just been driven by your curiosity and your desire to live a meaningful,
Better life.
yeah,
Yeah.
a meaningful life and not feel the need to be sad all the time. You can honor it. It's sad,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to have your moments like everybody else, like I have as well, right?
Right.
But it doesn't own you anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't own your daughter anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you go.
Yeah. I think if this were to happen to somebody, which I would never wish on anyone, I would want them to know that there are more people that get it than you think. And if you just stopped acting like you're the only one, you will open yourself up to a whole world of help. And that's what I mean, trauma across the board. Okay, so like for the people that are just sitting here saying, well, I don't have a son with special needs, but I'm going through a divorce. No, that's trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is, right? Okay, I'm not going through a divorce, but I just had, a terrible breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. That's trauma. You know, and across the board, losing family members, losing kids,
Getting diagnosed.
getting diagnoses. We're not going through the same thing, but we're all going through something.
Yeah.
And I promise I didn't plan to say that. That's just like genuinely how I feel. It's like, just step out of your comfort, whatever that is. Get out of your place that you go to cope, whether that's drugs and alcohol or anger or a feeling or internalizing, whatever it is. Like, stop going there and start opening up to people.
Yeah.
It's going to help.
Well, and that whole connectivity is really, that's why this logo matters to me, because it was the coming together of more than one person, right? Like, we're never alone. You're only alone if you let yourself be. My dad used to say all the time that it's a small world, it's a small world, it's a small world. And I believe that it's a small world if you let it be. Right? If you keep letting people in, it does get smaller and smaller. Like, oh my God, of course I know those Timbros, right? Like, we're old friends now. Right. And so the world just becomes this really special place. And now I have a connection here and a connection there because I let you in.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thrilled that you're doing that and you're willing to explore it and see where it goes. And, on that podcast, he asked me, one of the questions was, where do you see this in 10 years? And I didn't know any of the questions ahead of time. And without much of a pause, I just started answering it. And I was like, whoa, I had a plan for that. And it was really just about aligning Tighed Together with trauma centers and other facilities and spaces that's all they do. Like, why isn't it part of your discharge from the ER? To actually talk about right. Why?
We left the NICU after 2 weeks of our kid having brain surgery.
Right.
And all we did was get put in a room to eventually, hopefully, last till the end of 30 days to be discharged and then move on with life.
Yeah, it needs to be better than that.
Home and say, what
it should be better than that.
Yeah.
They should talk to you about, okay, this just happened to you. You're going to have all of these feelings. You need to help each other through all of those feelings because you're going to come out over here. We can't erase what happened, right? So, Tighed Together.